Hey everybody, Stu Smith here, going live, doing our Monday weekend preview of our workouts, what we're doing this week. Today was a tough one. Start off Monday right with some mile repeats. Whew, those are always hard. In fact, it was a rest doing the calisthenics compared to the mile repeats, but then some were getting crushed by the calisthenics and resting with the mile repeats. But the goal was to hit those miles at either a 6 or a 7 minute mile pace, because that is what we call running with a purpose. That means you have a goal of 6 minute mile pace for shorter timed runs, and you have a goal of 7 minute mile pace for longer timed runs. So, like the 4 5 mile runs that you will see in some selections. At Buds, you will see a 4 mile timed run every week for 26 weeks. So, you got to get good at that one. A lot of people get dropped from the course just because they can't pass a 4 mile timed run in less than 8 minutes. So, 8 minute mile. So that was today, followed by a swim. Nothing fancy, just a 50-50. Some guys upped it a notch and did 100 hundreds. So if you're not sure what the 50-50 is, there's a great article. It's a free workout that I promise you will help you crush a 500-yard swim test. And it works like this. In fact, I'll put the 50-50 swim workout in the comment section. It's in an article on my website. Free workout. Add it to your swim day, add it to your workout day. You can use it as a replacement if you like it a lot. I have found people who come in at like a 10-minute swim, clean up a little bit with their technique, get them down to like a 50-second 50, pretty efficient stroke, like 5-6 strokes per length. Then we introduce them to the 50-50 workout, where you swim 50 meters free, followed by 50 meters CSS. Do that 10 times, and then cool down with either a 500-meter swim or a 10-minute tread, whichever one you need to work on the most. And that is the 50-50. It's a great little workout. And I've seen guys go from 10 minutes to 8 minutes in less than a month. So anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks, crushing it. They just learned how to swim efficiently, but they also got themselves in swimming shape in a relatively short time. I mean, they were already in running shape, so they came in with decent amount of conditioning, but they weren't quite in swimming shape, getting winded if they did 100 type of thing. So we just came up with this workout, and it has been very helpful to quickly get people in swimming shape. Because it's two things. Swimming is definitely a technique first, conditioning second. That's just the way it is. But anyway, that's our today's workout. Tomorrow's going to be a hill day, which is our longer run day, but we break up our runs into different segments as well. Instead of just running 6-7 miles of just boring long, slow distance, we run. The first mile is a set of kind of a warm up set where we do some squats every 100 yards. So do one squat, run 100 yards, two squats, 100 yards. So it's more of a warm up pace. And then the next mile and a half, we pump up the speed a little bit and try to hit a good mile and a half time. Now we're at the hill because it takes us about 2.25 to get to the hill. And then we run this hill, and every hill is a half-mile round trip. So it's quarter-mile up the hill, quarter-mile down the hill, and it's a good, decent hill. I mean, if it was any longer, it would be hard to run up for sure. I mean, it's hard enough as it is. You're definitely getting to that high anaerobic level, especially if you try to sprint it. But we do that 5 times. That puts you at another 2.5 miles, and then we run back with some intervals and some squats and lunges. So this is kind of our calisthenics and cardio leg day. Some guys will ruck it instead of running it. So that's a different way to do it. And then afterwards, we'll swim with fins. So that is our Spec Ops leg day during the summer months when we're really trying to pump up some runs. Then Wednesday, we don't run at all. It's our favorite day of the week for me. It's a mobility day. You can call it what you want: mobility day, technique day, recovery day, flexibility day, whatever. But what we do is we do some non impact cardio followed by stretching and foam rolling. And then we jump into the pool, do some treading, some drown proofing, practice some technique on that. But what people will find is that because they've done some mobility and flexibility work prior to getting into the pool, that getting into some of those treading positions are a lot easier, meaning you can go from egg beater to scissor kick a lot smoother, and you're getting a little more power out of your kick if because of the increased mobility um, in your knees, hips, and ankles. And we'll even, for guys that have an even harder time, is we'll pull the foam rollers and mats out just so they can practice some of the stretches that we do for teaching treading and force them to do like a 5 minute on, 5 minute off type of thing so they can really get um, that mobility kink taken care of. Because I have seen a lot of people that cannot tread simply because of immobility of their hips and knees and ankles. So mobility is very important for some of that treading work, as well as breaststroke kicks, even scissor kicks. So there you go. So it's not just a rest day, it's a technique recovery day, but also it's going to help you with some other skills. Then Thursday, we pick it back up with another upper body day and interval runs. Probably, I think this week is 800s instead of miles over there. And then Friday is beach run day and legs. So we'll do some leg work, do some beach runs, swim with fins afterwards. That's a fun day. Do that year round, by the way. Friday is our year round beach day. Rain, shine, snow. It gets cold in the winter on beach day and dark. Doesn't even get sunlight till 7, and we're running in the dark for an hour. Those are fun days. In the summer, sun beats us there, and it's nice and bright and hot and humid, and jumping in the water just to cool down a little bit. Some guys will run wet and sandy too, just for a little extra fun. And then this Saturday, we are taking the day off because I want everybody well rested. Because Monday of next week, we are going to do a group PST just to see where everybody is. We've done a nice long progression of running and swimming and high rep calisthenics. I just want to see kind of a midsummer um, progress mark PST. We have a couple of Marines, so they'll do the Marine PFT. A couple of Air Force guys, they'll rearrange their exercises to fit their initial fitness test. But yeah, we're going to do a fitness test, and then we follow the fitness test with another workout. And that other workout is whatever we suck at in that fitness test, that's our next workout. So if you did horribly on the run, you're going to be running 10 400-meter intervals. If you did horrible on the calisthenics, you're going to be doing a PT pyramid. If you did horrible on the swim, you're going to head back to the pool and get yourself a 50-50. So that's how we kind of call it the PFT plus or the PST plus, and just add whatever we did not do well in. That is like our next exercise or next 30-40 minutes of workout to get a little more out of it. But yeah, that's our next week in review. If you got any questions on that, let me know. We do these workouts here in Maryland. They're free workouts, by the way. heroesoftomorrow.org. You can come join us. I figure if I'm going to write about training, I should be training people regularly. And luckily, with that program, I have 20 plus people to train every day and work through their problems and their issues and, try to figure out a solution for them. So that gives me ideas to write about. And in fact, we like this workout right here, spring training. We just got through doing this one, little block pyramid. Now we're into pure summer hardcore running and PTing. We'll do this throughout the rest of summer into early fall, and that's when we'll shift gears, go back down the progression of running. Just don't want to build up too much, just because I've seen it happen year after year. People just keep on running, high miles of running, just keep progressing, and then they wind up breaking. So we tend to make our running progression look like a bell curve. So anytime it's way up here, we're running some good amount of distance, probably 35, 40 miles a week at the peak. And then down here, start progressing down and probably get down to about 10 to 15 miles a week on our lower cycles. And that's when we're also lifting more, things like that. So that is called what I call seasonal tactical fitness periodization. If you haven't heard that term before, I write about it a lot. I talk about it a lot. In fact, let me put in this article in here and you can read it on why I think it's really important if you're thinking about transitioning out of athletics and going into the tactical fitness world, because it's great you have this foundation of athletics and you probably brought in some really great strengths, but you probably also have some corresponding weaknesses that are opposite of those strengths. For instance, like if you're an endurance guy, like I got a guy today telling me he's running 75 miles a week, getting ready for buds. I'm like, what else are you doing? And he says, well, I'm swimming too. I'm like, are you lifting, doing calisthenics? How much do you weigh? I'm like, come on, you are running great and you're probably going to kick everybody's asses in the run, which is important. But those first 4 weeks of buds where everybody quits or everybody gets injured or everybody fails to meet the standard is full of load bearing activities, from rucking, well, used to be rucking, um, boats, log PT, fireman carries, just a lot of carrying stuff around for many, many miles. And it will break you if you don't have some durability. Running does give you some durability, but when you're carrying stuff on your head and shoulders and chest carry like that, you're going to wish you'd spent some time in the weight room versus an extra 40 miles a week. Because I think you can get away with 35 miles a week as long as they're fast, and be plenty well ready for buds. But you're also going to want to be strong to handle those first 4 weeks. The good news is after Hell Week is you'll never touch a log or boat again. And the fun begins. You're going to dive. You're going to ruck. You're going to do some land nav. You're going to do some shooting, things like that. But it's more than just running. It's more than just lifting. It's more than just sprints and agilities and obstacle courses. It's all of that. You got to put it all together. And you got to be well-rounded with your capabilities athletically. So you're going to come in with this into this journey with some athletic history. That's great. Use those strengths, maintain them, but also don't neglect your weaknesses. That's where people fail in this journey, is they have neglected their weaknesses because it's just something people do. People don't like to work on things they're not good at. But I promise you, your weaknesses will be exposed in day one. If you're lucky, you might make it through the first week. All right, so we got a few questions here. Let's get these started. From Joe. Do you think we should become proficient as humanly possible with as many strokes as possible? Just develop the necessary water confidence required for buzz or just train for the CSS? I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, you mean multiple strokes. I thought you meant like strokes per length. I would say this: get good at the CSS and breaststroke kick if you can, because that breaststroke kick is going to enable you to do the egg beater. It's going to give you an option to a form of kicking that is different than a scissor kick and wearing fins. You need to learn scissor kick. You also need to learn, flutter kicks because you'll be swimming with fins, and that's pretty much how you get through the water is scissor kick or flutter kicks, long ocean swims. You can do some dolphin kicks too if you want. I like to do freestyle as well just because it's a good conditioning stroke. So that's why the 50-50 I think works really well is that 50 free is hard. And then you'll find that you're actually starting to catch your breath during an efficient CSS. So instead of proficiently as human possible with as many strokes as you can, get good at all of them, but be efficient in them all, meaning few strokes per length. It's not killing you to get across the pool. Um, you just want to look like you're actually pulling water and pushing water versus fighting it. um, but yeah, you also need to develop a lot of water confidence too. I would say if I were to rank them, I would say CSS is most important. Um, treading is second, and anything after that, swimming with fins is going to be the new most important part when you're at buds because 99% of your swims are with fins. The two treading tests, one without fins, one with fins, are very difficult. You can't blow those off. People get rolled or dropped for failing those. So yeah, water confidence is just as important as all of this. If you get scared when you're underwater without a mask on, that's not a good sign. You need to relax underwater, be able to move efficiently, and just be one with the water. Additionally, any advice on developing a stronger dolphin kick? Even despite working with a coach, mechanics feel off. Teaching the dolphin kick on a live Q&A show is very impossible. My recommendation is watch more people do dolphin kick and notice it's not just a bending of the knee, like, right? It's actually a flexing of the lower back and pushing everything and trying to make a whip from your hips down to your feet out of those, to make a dolphin kick. So it actually starts in stretching your abs and flexing your lower back and then whipping it down, just like a whip. Or what's a dance used to be, like the centipede or the worm, right? Watch people do the worm. I mean, it is all about flexing that back, and then once you got all this power stored right there, it just whip kick it out. That's the best I can do, um, on a live stream. Probably best way to learn that is in the pool and practice. So what I do is I kick off the wall with a pair of fins on and just get across using that hip motion to really power the fins. And then you'll feel it with a pair of fins on, and then you practice it without fins and you can feel the same type of flex of the lower back and whipping it out. That's how you do dolphin kick. Dolphin kick with fins is pretty handy as well, especially if something hurts on you and you have to get through a swim. You can utilize dolphin kick, to get through that swim. Final question, Joe. You thanks for asking the questions. I don't mind multiple questions. How many miles do people actually run in phase? Official Seal Swick podcast says 40 was what used to be prescribed, but most of what was Bud's shuffling was not running. I would agree. Bud's shuffling is not running. It is really half walking, just slow grinding, but it's still impact. Um, but it's not hard. It's not a hard run. Um, I think 40 miles is sufficient. We usually do anywhere between 30 and 40 here. Um, and the reason why I have that range is I'll even have guys not go higher than 25. Um, especially if they're excellent runners. The last thing an excellent runner needs to be doing is worrying about running, right? They need to be worrying about other stuff, strength, maybe swimming. Um, but if you're really bad at running, getting in some running without overdoing the impact is also important. So I may have somebody who's a little bigger actually run a little more than someone who's a little smaller just because that guy needs to literally run his ass off and get a little smaller. But I'll also throw in a lot of non-impact cardio too, just to save the joints and the bones from, tendons from flaring up. So, unfortunately, my answer is it depends. I really don't have a one answer that fits all. Really depends on your strengths and weaknesses. The one thing I do recommend not doing is like the guy that was telling me he's does over 75 a week and weighs a buck 50, right? So, you probably need to put on some mass and run a lot less, just to be able to handle a lot of the other things that will occur at buds. All right, next question. Good morning. What's your opinion on guys entering spec ops at 24? Man, 24 is young. I think it's great. I mean, I finished buds at 23. So I started at 22, graduated 23, finished SQT and advanced operator training for SDVs. I was 24. So 24 is not old. I would much rather see 24-year-olders go to buds than 18-year-olders go to buds. 18-year-olders, statistically speaking, do not fare well. And that's just pure statistics. They make up a majority of the attrition. I don't think they're mentally prepared. I don't think they're physically finished growing yet. A lot of them haven't even finished puberty, and they're trying to do a really challenging activity for a very long time in a new city, first time away from home. It's just a recipe, perfect storm for failure. In fact, wrote an article on it. It's called The Perfect Storm for Failure. Perfect storm for failure. This is on military.com. Um, but there's just a lot that goes on in the head of an 18-year-old that does not go on in the head of a 22-year-old. So, look, that's just my opinion. The Navy hates it when I say 18-year-olds shouldn't go to buds because that means they get a lot fewer people that they can place on ships because they're counting on 18-year-olds not making it through buds. Buds is a great maker of undesignated semen. Okay, this time I mean it. Final question. That's all right. We do have some 18 X-ray candidates. How much crossover is there between great endurance runners and great ruckers? Well, first of all, you don't need to be a great endurance guy to be a great rucker. Right? I have seen guys that are the furthest from a, a running endurance guy, like coming out of football, powerlifting, in the other sports like that where they were massive and they rucked like nobody's business. Also seen the same when putting on a pair of scuba fins because the little skinny legs of a endurance runner put on a pair of scuba fins, they get crushed, right? But if you played sports, that are hard on, you know, like pushing and like rugby and football and rowing, those guys got some crazy legs. Anything that required you to do a lot of squats and deadlifts, just to get in shape for your sport, putting on a big pair of scuba fins also translates really well for being in the top of the class. They may not have even come in the top 50% without a pair of fins on, but they put on a pair of fins or top 5 swim pairs. I've seen it countless times. But I don't think there's a whole lot of crossover. Yes, I've seen great runners also be great ruckers, but there is a thing in the Army where they see some kid running like a 12-minute 2 miler and they say, yeah, but can he ruck? So a lot of 12-minute runners and 10-minute runners, even, you know, for 2 miles of running, um, aren't necessarily the best ruckers, but some are. I don't have a good answer for that one. Essentially, do great runners tend to be good ruckers? I think we just covered that. Provided they're strong and strength trained. Yes, I would agree. Yeah. I would think a great runner will be a good to great rucker if they've added some strength training to their game. 100%. You're on the right track with that question. Good one. Any tips for strengthening joints to help deal with high mileage running? Um, that's a good one. First of all, there's a sequence to get to high mileage running, and that is requiring you to progress logically to high miles. The last thing you want to do is go from 20 miles a week to 40 miles a week in the matter of a week, right? That should take you at least 8 weeks to build up to that kind of mileage, right? 20 miles in 8 weeks is still a pretty fast progression. Maybe even 10 to 12 weeks is probably a little more logical. Um, but something that we do, that midweek no running day, mobility day, has been life changing for all of our guys to come in there after 2 days of solid running and calisthenics and lifting. Come in there and do a mobility day, take a day off of running, lick your wounds, stretch, foam roll, hit all those, soft spots, massage tools, all that. And then it just makes the next 3 days of running, yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday of running so much better. Um, and I've seen it definitely reduce or shorten, injuries like shin splints or knee tendonitis and things like that. So my suggestion is do that midweek mobility day. In fact, I put it in the comment section at the very beginning when I was talking about adding mobility day. Let's see. What's going on here? Feel kind of down lately because yesterday at the gym I underperformed, had a bad training day, could not lift heavy. Any tips? Article or tips? Yeah. Um, First of all, don't beat yourself up on it. We are human. We do have bad days. But my suggestion is whether you have a bad day or a great day, I want you to write down everything you had on that day, right? 24 hours prior to that lift, you should look into how did you sleep? How did you eat? How did you hydrate? Did you have electrolytes? Was it hot and humid? All these little details will help you determine one, perhaps what caused your bad day. But if you have a really great day and next thing you know, you're PRing on everything, do the exact same thing. Figure out why your day was so good. And it's usually tied to because you slept well, you ate well, you hydrated, um, you had electrolytes when you were sweating profusely. There's a large amount of data that can be taken from the 24 hours prior to a PR day or a horrible day. And you need to sift through that data and actually make it information that's useful to you with your training. And don't feel bad about it. I have bad days, but I can usually tie it to any number of those, recovery activities that I sucked at, or I just had a bad night's sleep, had something on my mind, couldn't sleep. So I slept 3 hours. That's probably going to affect you. So lighten up on yourself. Coming back from injury, shin splints. Yep. Join the club. It's pretty common. How should I begin training again? What milestones should I hit? You know what? I wrote an article over on what was it? Spring shin splints. Maybe it was just a post. I can't remember. But it was pretty interesting that 4 weeks into the spring, where everybody starts running again, um, that people start getting shin splints. This is an article I wrote recently. Um, I'll put this in here. It's just I wrote this with a doctor of physical therapy who trains with us. He gives us a lot of advice and tips on healing these type of things and even warming them up so you can run a little bit. My suggestion is run every other day, and on the days in between, you really hit a solid non-impact cardio activity: bike, swim, rowing, elliptical, something that's going to challenge you cardiovascularly without the impact, and see how that feels. And if you're starting to feel good after 2 or 3 weeks of that, start doing 2 days in a row with 1 day off, 2 days in a row with 1 day off. And make that 1 day off obviously a pretty challenging cardiovascular activity day as well. Because the last thing you want to do is get out of shape cardiovascularly because you can't run. There's nothing wrong with maintaining your cardio base or even building your cardio base with non impact activity, especially if you're new to running or prior injured because of running. I think a lot of people think they need to do long, slow distance to build an aerobic base. But if you're not a running athlete, that's just asking to be injured, right? Running athletes that are getting ready for cross country season will do a long, slow distance base cycle, which is great for them because they weigh probably a buck 40 and, can run all day. Right. But if you weigh 200 pounds, last thing you want to do is start building your aerobic base with a lot of running or more. I think you weigh 220. That's a lot of impact force on those knees and shins. So you got to progress really logically and mix in some non-impact cardio. All right. For the treading test, are you wearing twin 80s? Yes. What is a good length of time to be able to hold the tread with and without fins? You won't be wearing twin 80s without fins. Without fins, it's just treading. That's it. You just got to tread without fins. A lot of people scissor kick, egg beater, however you want. With a pair of fins on, you'll have twin 80s and a 12-pound weight belt around your waist. The twin 80s are actually fairly neutral. Like they may sink, but they're going to sink really slowly. So they're not necessarily pulling you down as much as that 12-pound weight vest or weight belt. So my advice is get a weight belt and a pair of fins and just stay vertical. Vertical swimming. It's really all it is. You can do scissor kicks, you can do little flutter kicks, just don't use your hands. And I would say build up to 10 minutes. That would be a good amount of time. We had a guy that failed it during second phase and was rolled because he failed it. Came home over Christmas, and that's all we did after our workouts was we just treaded water with a pair of fins on. And he got a pair of twin 80s from a local scuba shop and brought it down, and we just crushed it. And then he went and just it was easy. And something else was really interesting. He dropped his swim times by over 5 minutes the next few weekly 2 mile swims, mainly just because he just got really good at flutter kicking. So consider that. You can also I call it vertical swimming because it's just as hard as swimming. And if you don't think treading is as hard as swimming, you're in for a rude awakening when you start treading and getting winded and feeling like you're like starting to panic. You got to practice treading because if you don't practice treading, you're behind the 8 ball. Yeah, treading with clothes on is even worse. Especially recon guys got to tread with clothes on. It sucks. Would you happen to have any advice for the ASFAB? Obviously, aside from studying, I've taken the ASFAB test while recruiters visit the school, but explained that it was outdated. I don't know anything about the ASFAB other than the types of scores you need to get. I would definitely study it. I would buy one of those study guides. Just go to Amazon and type in ASFAB study guide, get it, get the flashcards, get the app, whatever. Take a couple of, I think there's a couple of free online tests if you go through Google and search it. But you definitely want to take a couple practice tests on your own before you take the real one because you'll learn how to take the test. I mean, it's very similar to the way you would take a couple PSTs before you take your official one because you learn how to take the test. You learn how to create a strategy around the test. You're not going to get any smarter, between now and the time you take the test, but you'll learn how to take the test and you'll be more efficient with test taking. And that is really what you're shooting for. So I would tell you the same thing if it was the SAT or the ACT getting ready for college. Do the same thing. You got to do it. Otherwise, you're not getting in. Curious your experience as a trainer. Have you had any ex wrestlers done with the pipeline? Of course, countless. Here's the thing with wrestlers. Wrestlers are excellent students in Spec Ops training program if, and this is a very big if, they can swim and tread water. Unfortunately, a lot of wrestlers come in very lean and they sink like a rock and they never have been good swimmers. But I have a couple of kids here that train with us, and they're still in, I think, just starting high school. And I said, hey, I know you like wrestling, but here's something I would recommend, especially if you're wanting to go down the SEAL route. This kid's like 13, wants to be a SEAL. I said, do some rec league swimming. So just go like over the summer, go on a swim team, right, at your local pool or whatever, YMCA or whatever. Just be on a swim team, learn how to swim, get your butt kicked by all these swimmers. And eventually you're going to get good at swimming. And a wrestler who can swim, I will say, is pretty good at everything already, just with the athletic history that they have. They're tough, pound for pound strong. I mean, just they're great candidates. Wrestlers who can swim. That's what I'd recommend for an ex-wrestler. I've also taken online practice tests, but they seem inconsistent with when it comes to question compared to other tests. Well, they're not going to ask the same questions. They're going to ask the same type of questions. You are now getting into an area that I don't know anything about. So if you go into any more specifics on the ASVAB, I'm going to say talk to somebody else because that is not what I do. Right? I just told you a way to study. That's the way I would study. That way works. Whether or not you can find it or not, I'm not sure what to tell you. But get some intel, figure out what book to buy, figure out what practice test to use, and take them. They haven't changed that much. All right, 52. Hey, welcome to the 50s. I'm 53. Have you learned or apply anything now that you could get away with without doing when younger? Not sure what you mean by that question. Um, what I can get away without doing that you could get away without doing when younger. Hey, I'm sorry. Give me some specifics. Like, there's a lot of things, ways my fitness has evolved as I have aged into each decade. The adding of that mobility day is one of them. That probably saved me. When I was 44, I literally thought I was not going to be able to run anymore. My hips were so jacked up. I mean, everything hurt. I was in the middle of a running cycle and I had to stop running just because my hips hurt so bad. Felt like my hips were bleeding when I ran internally. Just what it felt like. It just hurt. So I started, instead of running, I would go do bike. And then I got bored with the bike and I was like, you know what, let me do biking for 5 minutes and stretching for 5 minutes. And then I'd start doing biking for 5 minutes and I'd foam roll for 5 minutes. And that made all the difference in the world. Then I added it to swimming and I'd swim for 5 minutes and I'd do dynamic stretches in chest deep water for 5 minutes or tread for 5 minutes. And man, I tell you what, that completely changed my life to a point where I am 53 now and have been running ever since. Like, I probably only had to take about a month and a half off of running when my hips were jacked up, and at 6 weeks later I was running again with no pain, and that was huge. And now I do these mobility days. I walk out of the uh the gym, no feeling no pain at all. I'm like walking to my car thinking, man, nothing hurts. That's awesome. Back doesn't hurt, legs don't hurt, knees don't hurt, nothing hurts. Great feeling. So I would say I recommend a mobility day once or even twice a week. I'm probably going to start adding them twice a week just to because I enjoy them so much. Not because I necessarily need them, just I want to get more flexible, want to get more mobile. I see it helping a lot. But I'm sorry, I don't understand the English of your question. So I just went on my own little tangent there. Is it normal to be nervous for the PST? Absolutely. I always get butterflies. It's absolutely normal. Take a couple few deep breaths, but you know what? Be honest with you, that adrenaline is going to help you. Now, I will tell you this, you're going to have to pull the reins on it because sometimes that adrenaline, especially when you're starting off your first event, you just like boom, take off way too fast. Like if you're running first, you're going to start off sprinting, or if you are um, swimming first, you're going to start your pace off way too fast. Next thing you know, you're kind of really winded now, and you got to finish the rest of the event. Trying to catch your breath. Um, so my advice is take several practice tests and just know your pace going in. And you're going to have to shake it off a little bit with that adrenaline pumping and getting you fired up to go crush it. Just pull the reins on yourself a little and just hit your pace. That's the key, especially when you're starting off with the swim. And then just let the adrenaline just pump through you when you're hitting your calisthenics. Don't want to start off too fast on the sit ups either. That's more of a pacing drill. Um, You got to hold yourself back on that, and then the run. If you're doing the PST and the runs last, go in and work on your pace, but that last lap, crush it. You know, and yeah, it's completely normal. I still get nervous. In fact, Monday we're doing a PST, and I'm doing it with everybody, and I know I will have some butterflies before the event, just because one, it's like competition. It's just fun. I call it pre-game jitters. Give it a name instead of I'm nervous that I'm not going to pass. Think of it as these are pre-game jitters. Just like before a big football game or sports event that you used to do. Same thing. I used to get fired up. I get so fired up I'd throw up. You know. So, yep. All right. How often do you all practice breath holds in underwaters? Any issues with your guys, and how did you fix it? We usually on Wednesdays we do drown proofing, and we'll do once everybody's nailing the drown proofing and the treading, we'll start playing around with some underwater knot tying. I got this new drill I've been using with locks and keys, and you got 4 locks in a bucket and 8 keys, and you have to, go down, get a key, unlock a lock. It's just completely by chance. Sometimes you're lucky and you get on the first time. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 before you've figured out which lock it is. Um, but yeah, we play around like that. I think having a task, but then when we do underwater swims, it's more about technique than it is about breath holds. So I teach, trying to get 25 yards and then turn around and come back for another 25 yards in as few strokes as possible. Where people screw up that underwater swim is they're just constantly doing this, and they wonder why they're tired in 10 yards. We try to get 25 yards without a kick off the wall and a front flip in about 5 strokes. And then when you turn around and come back, we try to get that second 25 yards with a kick off the wall in 4 strokes. So it's all about streamline gliding position, getting good hard pulls, streamline gliding position. Yeah, everybody, thanks for giving him advice on the ASFAB. You guys have taken it. You guys understand. Mobility Day, yes, perfect answer. Let's see. Hey, Stu, big fan. Been wondering how often you speak to Don Shipley. You haven't talked to him in a while. I think I spoke to him earlier this year. Can't remember what it was about, but it was something. I watched a few. I did an interview with him on his YouTube channel. That was fun. He's a great guy. I've done some work with him in the past, and that guy's just top notch. I mean, he puts on a really good show. Um, I think when I first met him, he was doing all the demo for the SEAL reunion, and I was one of the divers in the SEAL reunion. Um, it was pretty cool. Good stuff. Let's see. Keith talks about Mobility Day walkthrough video. You answered my question perfect. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that walkthrough video is a good one on YouTube. I think it's good 40 minutes of me doing my Mobility Day, and you can do it many different ways. This is just a way. I probably do it a different way every week, but it always starts off and ends with 5 minutes of biking, 5 minutes of stretching, and depending on which part of my body really needs it the most is where I kind of focus on that stretching and foam rolling area. Let's see. How to cope with the pressure in terms of being a new SEAL officer in a platoon, having them to manage and lead operators at the top of their field. You know what? It's unique. It's not as bad as you think, because there's still a lot of new guys that come into the platoon with you as well. I mean, people on their first deployments, and you might have, 4 or 5 guys that have done more than one deployment, and some that have done a whole bunch of deployments as well. And you have to rely on your veteran operators to really help you and help all the young guys. The way I kind of look at it was, think of it like a rookie quarterback on a football team, right? So the rookie quarterback, first time playing in the big leagues and um, or playing pro football. Um, but you've had guys there 10 years, that are just as responsible for getting that ball down the field as he is. He's just the one making the, decisions, with obviously a chain of command that's guiding him to make those decisions. His responsibility is to get that ball down the field. And usually he's going to take all the blame or get all the credit for getting that ball down the field. Um, Even though there are veteran linemen, veteran backs, veteran receivers that are really, helping you do the work as well. So it's, if you come at it with that kind of mindset, knowing that you have to rely on the information that your veterans are there to help you with, it's not as bad as people make it out. But that takes a lot of confidence in yourself as well to be able to do that and say yes or no. That's a great idea. Let's do it. Mobility day, 3 to 4 days a week, coming back from a back injury. You know what? Not a bad idea. Um, I have done 5 mobility days as my workouts of the week, um, because I had either an injury that was preventing me from doing something, or I had an illness that was really like I had to pull back because it was a like bronchitis or something that anytime I got my heart rate up too high, I'd start coughing. So, um, I mean, just thinking about bronchitis makes me cough. Um, so yeah, I've done it multiple days in a row. And you know what? I find it to be great for doing, not only making you feel better, but one, if you do it at the same time as your normal workouts anyway, like for me at 6 a.m. in the morning, it's a placeholder for my workouts. Like, even though I feel like crap or I've got this injury, I'm not skipping a workout. Like, my habits at 6 a.m. are the same as if I was healthy and going to do a full workout. So I don't lose that habitual process, because I mean, it doesn't take long to get out of the habit of training. I have never done it in all of my years. I've just been training pretty much regularly since I was 13 years old. Um, but I've seen people do that. They have an injury, they don't train for 3 or 4 weeks, and then getting back into the habit of training again is really difficult. It's like they're starting all over. Let's see. A couple more questions. I gotta go in a minute. I got an article I gotta finish. Getting in shape to soon apply for Air Force Special Warfare Officer. Nice. It's a good challenge. I think I have about a year to graduate with my bachelor's and then physical prep. Are these books, calisthenics, cardio, combo? Yeah, those are all great. In fact, these workouts here are basically what I have done locally for previous years. Like, we did this for a couple of years. Pre-COVID, I think, maybe even during COVID, and then this one was end of COVID, and this year is what we're doing now. It's just a block periodization model compared to this one, which is just kind of a seasonal periodization model. But yeah, those are great for SEAL, Air Force spec war, because there's running, there's lifting, there's a lot of calisthenics, there's swimming, and rucking, all in those. So they are kind of more of the overall group and methodology of my training, whereas programs like this are more specific to that fitness test, as well as this one's phase 2 and 3, so it's a little bit more geared towards um once you've kind of paced, crushed the fitness test, now you're focusing on getting through buds with longer runs, longer swims with fins, and things like that. So, yeah, those programs, Calisthenics Cardio is a great place to start. It actually has a really good advanced program, and many people have crushed the PST just by using that. And they started off at the beginner level, probably lost 40 pounds, got into the uh, intermediate level as well, and then hit the advanced level because there's 3 levels in that Calisthenics Cardio program, which it's one of my favorites. It's just pretty basic, not much equipment, though you do need a place to swim, do pull ups. But for the most part, it is minimal equipment to get that workout done. Now, these combos here, the spring, summer, fall, winter, a little more equipment, need a gym or at least some kind of weight to throw around during the lift cycles. So, um, yeah, but I would recommend that, or do this once you build a good base, then you can go with the Air Force Special Warfare program. It's called Air Force Special Ops on my StuSmithFitness.com. And that has a really good one to help prepare specifically for the IFT, as well as a newly updated section. I think it takes it up to like 16 weeks now, um, for the OFT as well, which is the operator fitness test. Has some, I think it has some bench press or deadlifts, jumps, agility runs, farmer's carry with kettlebells, things like that. Still running and swimming. What do I think of a boxer's workout for the Army? Sure, run. As long as you're running, doing some calisthenics, I think you'll be fine. Though the Army combat fitness test also requires deadlifting, sandbag throwing, or medicine ball throwing. Still 2-mile runs, plank poses. Great quarterback analogy. Thanks for the insight. Very relatable. Oh, cool. Well, thank you. All right, last question here. Where can I get those books? Also, do you have books on nutrition? What should I eat before and after workouts? These programs are on StuSmithFitness.com. In fact, I'm going to use a coupon code for you. If you want, check out this little streamer down here at the bottom. Compete20, StuSmithFitness.com. You'll save 20% on any of those programs. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the combat swimmer stroke a little more, with some combat swimmer stroke critiques. If you want to send in a video of yourself swimming, send it to me. You can either DM me on Instagram, StuSmith50, or email me, stu@stusmith.com. Happy to critique it for you. If you don't want it up on the live show, I won't put it on. Just let me know that you don't. But I also do a whole lot of submitted videos on TikTok, StuSmith50. Nothing but the combat swimmer stroke, and some underwater swims too on there. But you'll see some critiques on that, some perfect swims, as well as some folks who need some help and why they need help. So it's over 100 videos of just me critiquing CSS. Let me see. Where's that final question? Yeah, getting the books about nutrition. There's a nutrition chapter in here, but I've done some really good podcasts with nutritionists. In fact, it is really good. Um, Tactical Fitness Report 219 with Nick Barringer. He's a PhD in nutrition, sports nutrition. Check out this podcast. It's also on this YouTube channel as well. Podcast 219. Yeah, check that out. It's really good. And there is an article I did write about nutrition. It's kind of like, I think it's called the ABDs of nutrition: after, before, during. Um, nutrition for energy. Let's see. I think this might be it. Yeah, you'll like this one. Check out this article. It's pretty informative. But you can't go wrong with that podcast that I had with Lieutenant Colonel Barringer. He has his own podcast as well. I'd highly recommend looking him up because that's all he does. He's a PhD in nutrition, and we talked about nutrition for longevity as well as nutrition for optimal performance because they're the same, which was pretty cool. So, um, yeah, check those out. All right, folks, I need to go, but don't forget stewsmithfitness.com if you're looking for some programming. Compete 2-0. Come back tomorrow, same time, 9 o'clock. I will be showing some videos of combat swimmer stroke, critiquing those live, and taking your questions as well. So let me know. Once again, thanks for your time, and I'll chat with you tomorrow.